work. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very big welcome to Lecture 6. Today, I am going to be talking about the topic of managing risk, a very, very important topic in project management, because if we do not very, very well go and manage our risk, we are going to go and find ourselves in a situation where things don't actually go and work well the way they should go and be working. So we find ourselves basically delivering things late, not within time, not within budget, to basically go and name a few. So it's very important. We're going to go and look at all of these things we are able to go and do to ensure we are going to be able to deliver our project on time, within cost, and within the specification. So I urge you to be able to ensure you look at that, because some of these things you're going to go and be incorporating as part of your assignment, especially when it comes to creating some of the risk management registers that I expect you to go and be creating. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is really part of a lot of the work that we've basically been doing so far. We've done introduction, strategy, organization, defining project estimation, project network, and so on. And now we're getting to the stage where we are going to go and be managing the risk. So managing the risk, what do we need to do? What are we going to learn about? Well, we need to describe the risk management process. How do we go and manage risks? We need to go and understand how do we go and identify all of these project risks. We need to go and think about assessing the importance of different project risks that we might go and actually encounter. We describe the 4 different types of responses that we might actually go and have to all of these risks that we might go and encounter. We're going to go and understand the role of contingency plan. What is a contingency plan? Why is that important? How do we go and deal with it? To name a few. And we're going to go and talk about that, understanding opportunity management. Sometimes, what we go and find is something that is positive, something that is going to go and be adding value for us. So how do we go and kind of benefit from a particular opportunity to be able to go and really get a particular outcome to go and really be achieved? We're also going to go and talk about how do we understand how contingency funds, so contingency funds and any extra funds that we make available, that is really important, that we need to go and manage. How is that contingency fund going to go and be managed? Time buffers, how are they going to be used to be able to go and manage all of those risks on a particular project? We're going to go and recognize the need for risk management being an ongoing opportunity. In other words, let's not kind of do it now and then say, well, we're not going to go and do it later. We're going to have to go and continue doing that particular item in order for us to ensure that that we're not going to go and have any particular problem. So we need to go and recognize that risk because we want to continue to be able to go and manage our projects in an appropriate manner. We're going to talk about recognizing, as I said, the need for ongoing risk management. We're going to also go and describe all of these change controls that are important and we need to go and really manage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what is risk? Risk is something that is uncertain. Risk is something we don't know about. It is something basically that a chance that planning cannot overcome. Sometimes we might not know that something is basically existing. So what we do, we basically have to go and kind of sometimes it's anticipated, sometimes it's not anticipated, but something uncertain, something a chance event that planning cannot overcome, planning cannot control, something that could be having a negative impact, but sometimes could be an opportunity that could have a positive impact for us as an organization. So it's about really going and talking about how do we go and really deal with particular items. We have a risk management process. That risk management process is about managing that particular risk to ensure we are able to go and really reach any particular outcome. So when I talk about risk management, I talk about a number of steps that we need to go and deal with. We talk about things such as understanding what could go wrong at any point of time. We talk about thinking how can we minimize the risk events impact. In other words, what consequence the risk is going to really have on me. We're going to go and think about what can be done before an event occurs. That's the first thing, in anticipation. What can we really go and do to be able to go and prevent potentially a risk from occurring? Can I take some actions to be able to go and get things to go and, if you want, minimize or avoid the issue altogether? we talk about what to do when an event does occur, because sometimes, you know, you might go, you might plan, you might do all of these things, but the risk might still go and occur. So if that was to occur, what are you going to go and do when that particular issue goes and actually occur? It's about really being able to go in response to a particular problem when that problem goes and really becomes a reality. So we're going to talk about all of this. You know, I want to ask you this first question. Project risks can be eliminated, or project risks cannot be eliminated if the project is carefully planned. I want you to think about that statement. You know, project plan risks can be eliminated, or project risks cannot be eliminated. I want you to think about both of these items, and I want you to go and try to think about it and tell me, what do you think? Do you think do you think it can be eliminated if we go and plan things correctly, or do you think we cannot actually go and eliminate it altogether? What is your view, my friends, all the smart people here? Tell me, what do you think? Can we eliminate it, or can we not eliminate it if we plan things correctly? What do you think?
I think we can minimize them, but not eliminate it at all.
Okay, we can minimize it. Why can't we eliminate it?
Because it could be like things that we didn't see coming or something like that.
Okay, so something you know, something we might not really know about, something that might just we're not sure about.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Anyone else? Anyone else?
We can minimize it, but not eliminate it.
You can minimize it, but you cannot actually eliminate it. Okay, fair enough. So we can definitely minimize risk. We can definitely try to take an action to be able to go minimize it. But look, no one, for example, could anticipate that we're going to go and have a coronavirus. You know, how would you go and anticipate something like this? You know, whenever there's a risk, there are things you can think about. There are things you can manage. There are things that basically could be very much thought about, you know, initially and in details. But there are some things that we can't, you know, think about. Some things that might just go and occur without us really knowing about it. So what do? We go and say, well, you know, do we go and say, well, we're going to be able to go and identify everything? The very simple answer to that question is we can think about as many risks as we might actually go and identify. We could think about all of these things, but in reality, we can't think about all of them. In reality, many things might actually go and occur, and we might not even have thought about these things. And what we need to go and really bear in mind is, what are we going to go and do to be able to go and deal with this risk when their risks do become reality? And that's why when I basically started talking about this concept today, we started saying about, you know, not everything could be anticipated. We spoke about risk management being an ongoing process, not a process that you do once and then you stop doing after. So it's very important to go and really look about, what are we going to go and really do to be able to go and really manage a particular problem, and that particular problem and the risk could occur at any point of time, and it's very important that we are really ready to go and manage it whenever that particular things go and actually occurs. You know, they cannot be totally eliminated. That's why we have all of these contingency plan. That's why we have monitoring points we go and look at. That's why we have all of these things, because we want to go and try to minimize any potential impact, but we cannot really eliminate it completely. If I'm going to go and talk about a risk, we talk about so many things relating to go and risk. So we talk about, you know, the cost to go and fix a risk event, and we talk about the changes of the chances of risk occurring. What I want you to know is at the beginning of the project, there's a high risk that some risk is going to go and really occur. There's a very high risk relating to that. And that's only very early on in a particular project. But once you go and you become, you know, more, you know, in the project, and you deal with it and you start working further in that project, what you will notice is that the chances of risk occurring is going to become less and less possible. And the reason why is because we've already went and we've already delivered a particular item. We've already kind of got something to go and really be done. And if that is the case, if it's already been done, if it's already delivered, that's mean, well, we've already got to the end. So it's not too much of a risk anymore, the way that it usually would have been a risk in the first instance. But if we go and talk from another perspective, if we talk about the risk, yes, risk is very high early on, but although it's high, if I go and identify that risk very, very early, I am basically able to go and deal with that risk in an appropriate manner very early on, because it's it is something that could be controlled. I can control it initially. Even if there's a risk, it's still at the beginning of the project. It's still early. It's still into defining. Well, guess what? It is not going to cost me a lot of money, so it is not too much of an issue. But if I go and I continue with the project, and now I'm getting towards potentially the end where I am going to be delivering that project, and then I found out, oh, there is a risk that I've missed, that is a big problem. Because all of this work, imagine you've been working on a software development for the last 2 years, and then you find out, oh my God, I actually missed a very important thing that I need to go and make. And then what will happen at that time is you basically will go and notice that, well, it's going to cost you so much money now to be able to go and fix that particular issue, because you did not really identify and fix that issue very, very early on at that point of time. So it's very, very important to go and really look at that thing, and then try to go and deal with things accordingly, and try to manage the risk very, very early on, if you can, to be able to minimize any potential costs associated with any particular item. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a process relating to the management of risks. How do we go and manage risk? Well, we need to go and follow a particular process. And what is that process? Well, we need to go and identify that risk. That's the first one. After we go and identify that risk, we need to be able to go and try to look at that risk and understand more about that risk. And that basically involves, I want to go and assess that risk. And after I go and assess that risk, I go and look at how am I going to go and actually respond to all of these risks, because they need to be responded to in a particular manner. And then after that, I need to go and create a risk response control. How are we going to go and really control things, control our responses? And our control is not simply about monitoring and adjusting our plan. It's also about having some sort of a change management process that is possibly going to go and really protect us as we are basically moving along in terms of the work we're trying to go and do. So let's go and talk about various things. Risk identification. Let's go and think about all of these potential risks that we might go and actually think about at any particular point of time. What is the risk? Let's generate a list of all of these possible risks through. Let's brainstorm. Let's go and think about, brainstorming is about, let's go and get people to start telling us their various ideas, think about it themselves. Let's go and think about the problem identification. What is the problem? Let me try to go and identify it. Let me think about all of these risk profiling. And when I talk about profiling, there could be various type of risks that I could go and actually really bear in mind at any point of time. There's various level of risk. There's a high risk, there's a small risks. We basically try to go and deal with that. But if I go and I talk about various level of attention for various risks, and I talk about, let me go and look about the high risks first, and let me then go and look at the lower risks after. There's macro, which is a high level sort of risk identification. It could be more like a category of risks that could go and impact on me, and I go all the way down to the detailed. And when I talk about the details, I talk more about let me go and think about this specific events, like what could really specifically go and really happen at any particular point of time in terms of the work that we're really going and we're doing. Now, when I talk about the risks, is all of these various categories of risks that we could go and think about. It could be technical risk, external risk, organizational, project management, customers. And these are only a few ones for me to go and really bear in mind. There might be many, many more than that I could go and actually bear in mind. But it's about really thinking about all of these potential risks that we need to go and really deal with and manage accordingly. So if I talk about, for example, the technical risk, what could they be? Well, we might not go and identify, let's say our requirements correctly. We might have a technology that is, I don't know, hard for us to be able to go and manage. We might have, things like complexity and interfaces. There might be a lot of complexity, or the interface might not be something we are able to go and really manage appropriately. We might have things like performance and reliability issues. We might be having a quality issue. There's all of these various things to go and really bear in mind that could occur externally. It could be subcontractors, it could be suppliers, it could be regulators, it could be the market, it could be customer issues, it could be the weather, it could be coronavirus. It's all of these things that could really go and impact on our ability. And as I said, sometimes we cannot control it. Sometimes things might go and happen and we have no idea anything about it. We basically have to go and deal with the impact as that impact goes and really occur at any particular point of time. We could think about the organization. Project dependencies, maybe more than one project are actually interconnected together, and they basically affect how we go and do things at any point of time. It could be, resources might not be available. It could be we don't have the money. It could be the project, for example, is not of a high priority at any particular point of time, just to name a few. If I go and think about, project management issues, we might be having things like poor estimating. We're not good at planning, we're not controlling things well, we're not communicating well, and it could be customer things. The customer might not be really accepting what we are producing at any point of time. They might not like what we have. There might not be enough coordination for the work that we're doing. We might not be training them appropriately. We might not be giving them the right support for them to be able to really accept what we've delivered, and ensure they are going to go and be using that particular system that I might have went and really delivered to them. Sometimes we try to identify the risks using many ways. We might have a profile of questions we go and ask, which basically relate to the sort of issues, sort of problems we basically go and really encounter. This is not a full checklist. It's just a kind of small checklist with some questions, some information. But what I want you to go and bear in mind is, it's there because it just gives you the foundation that you'll be able to go and find some of these things that would be relevant for you. And like, for example, you might say, well, technical requirements, are the requirements stable? Oh, no. Okay, that's a risk. You might go and ask, any other question. Design, does the design depend on unrealistic or optimistic assumptions? Oh, yes. Okay, well, that's a problem. So we basically, testing, will testing equipment be available when needed? Oh, no. Okay, well, that's an issue. Is a development process supported by a compatible set of procedures, method, and tools? Is the schedule depends upon the completion of other projects? So all of these things basically go and highlight, highlight more things that we are able to go and really bear in mind at any particular point of time. So budget issues, quality issues, management issues, work issues, staffing issues, customer issues, contractor issues, whatever you go and really find are things we need to go and really try to bear in mind. If we go and look at the stage number 2, we talk about all of these risk assessment. Let's go and assess all of these risks. How do we assess them? Well, let's make a scenario analysis, for an event, probability and impact. Let's go and have a risk assessment metrics. Let's go and look at things like, failure mode and effect analysis, which is really a way to go and make various calculations to be able to go and deal with a particular problem. Let's go and look at probability analysis. All of these are tools we can use to be able to go and really assess our risks and try to go and deal with them. Let's go and look at the decision trees, net present value, PERT. Let's go and look at that semi-quantitative scenarios. For example, we might be using some numbers and some data, but we also might be speaking directly to people and trying to get people's point of view to be able to go and really deal with things. So we need to go and really assess the risk appropriately. We need to go and understand all of these impacts of the various risks. We need to try to go and deal with them. And from there, we'll be able to go and deal with the problem accordingly. When I talk about risk assessment, this is, for example, a form that we basically could go and follow to be able to go and make our risk assessment. So we could go and think, for example, this is a risk event. What is it? Well, my risk event is a system is going to go and freeze. All right, great. So system freezing, that is potentially the risk event. All right, let's go and deal with that. So what is the likelihood of it's occurring? 2. 2 means it's not very high. It's a low potential that something is going to go and occur. So it is 2. What's the impact of that occurring? Well, if it occurs, it's going to go and have a big impact. And when I talk about that, we talk about 5, for example. That's a very big impact we need to go and really deal with. What's a detection difficulty? Well, what we do is we go and we would say 5. 5 means it is very hard for us to be able to go and really detect any particular problem. It is not very easy for us to be able to go and actually identify. When it's just during the startup of my project. So what you do is, this, failure mode and effect analysis. It's a really way of calculation that we are able to go and use. And the way we use it, we'll be able to go and multiply my impact time my probability, time my detection difficulty, to be able to go and try to identify any particular issue at any particular point of time. Once you go and make those calculations, you start getting numbers, but you also start knowing which risks are in a red zone, which is a major risk, a big risk that we need to go and really bear in mind, which ones are in the yellow, which is potentially not very big issues for us to go and deal with, and which ones are basically in the green zone, minor risk, not very big risk, that we need to go and really try to bear in mind at any point of time. So we need to go and understand the various risks that are available. We need to try to understand how are we going to go and really deal with them to be able to go and manage a particular problem. Step 3 is about the risk response development. What is that risk response development? Well, it's about really looking at that particular risk and developing a particular response. And when I talk about developing responses, various responses I could go and develop. There's, for example, I could mitigate a particular risk, which is I can reduce the likelihood an adverse event will actually occur, reduce the impact of an adverse event. So I want to try to mitigate the risk of the electricity occurring. I want to really reduce the likelihood of that occurring by having no electricity, by basically having another generator that is available on the side. That's what we call something more like mitigating of the risk. We can avoid the risk altogether. How do we avoid it? We could change a project plan to eliminate the risk or eliminate the condition. How do we do it? Well, if, for example, the risk that they will be, an outcome not being delivered because we don't have enough resources, what I might do to be able to go and avoid the risk, I might go and employ more resources to ensure that at any point of time we have more resources than what we need at any particular point of time. Or we could say, well, we're going to go and outsource the project work or some of the part of the work if we need to, if we basically find that we don't have enough resources that are available at that point of time when I actually went and when I needed them. So something to go and really bear in mind. Transferring the risk. What is transferring the risk? Transferring the risk is about paying a premium to pass the risk to another party. requiring build and operate transfer provisions. For example, if I am eBay, and if I would like to go and have a call center that is available to be able to go and deal with all my client inquiries, what I might do is I might go and get another company. I might go and say to that company, look, please go and I want you to build that potential factory or center where you're going to be able to go and provide all of these support that are needed. After we go and do that, we'll go and say, well, now what we're going to do is I want you to go and open that place. I want you to go and operate it for a certain period of time. I want you to really own it and then operate it yourself for a certain period of time. And only after you've actually owned it and only after you've operated it and you know that it is now functioning in an appropriate manner, only then will we actually go and deal with the problem and say, all right, we're going to go and pick up that particular center, and we're going to go and add it to our own area, to our own organization, to be able to go and really use it ourselves. So that's just a sort of way we are able to go and really deal with that particular issue. Retain the risk is another one. What is that, retaining the risk? Well, that's another things we need to go and really talk about. So it is about making a conscious decision to accept the risk. I know something could go wrong. I know something could be a problem, but it doesn't matter that something could be a problem. I want to make sure that I'm going to go and retain that particular risk. I'm going to make that particular decision to accept that risks. And if it occurs, then, well, we'll actually deal with it and we'll try to manage it accordingly at that particular point of time. So that's a stage. It's really 3 about risk response development that we basically need to go and bear in mind. Now, I want to give you this particular activity now, and I want you to go and think about it. There's the Manchester United soccer tournament project team has identified the following potential risks to their project. Referees failing to show up at designated games, fighting between teams, pivotal error committed by a referee that determines the outcome of a game. There's all of these various risks that are available. Now, I explained previously, about mitigating the risk, avoiding the risk, transferring the risk, and retaining the risk. What I want to do is I would like you to go and think about how would you go and really recommend that they respond. Do you recommend that they avoid it? Do you recommend that they accept it? Do you recommend that they mitigate it? What do you recommend they do for each of these risks? And why do you make that recommendation? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put you in 2 groups to be able to go and engage in that activity. I'm going to give you 10 minutes for that activity to be able to go and do it. What I want from you is I would like you to go and take a picture of this activity now so that you guys are able to go and work as part of your groups. I'm going to split you, as I said, in 2 groups. So please, I'm going to give you a minute to go and take a picture. And if anyone just joined us now, I'll remind you that the midterm exam is going to be a bit later today, and definitely it is going to be taking place, but it's going to be happening towards the second half of our class today. So just take a picture, guys. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, 2 breakout rooms. I'm going to open those rooms, guys. I would like you to go and make sure you engage with that activity. You have 10 minutes to engage with that activity, discussing that activity, and then after that, I'll bring you back to the main room, and then we'll start listening to what you basically have suggested. So I'm going to open the rooms now. Please join the rooms. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate all your hard work. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for engaging in this activity. Let's just go and start with the first item. Referees are failing to show up at designated games. What is the response there? We're going to avoid, accept, mitigate. What are we going to do? What do you think?
For our group has ended up thinking is to transferring the risks by putting a backup referee.
Yeah.
For our group, we thought it's mitigating Because like sometimes that's why we always have a relief referee or some, you know, backup people.
Yep.
Backup referees. So
Most of these options would work. You know, usually mitigation is a main option you would have, but you would say, well, I'm going to go and actually, I want to go and transfer that risk to someone else. And how do I do that? I'll say, look, I'm going to outsource all refereeing to another company, and I'm not going to go and worry about it myself. So that the best options would work, but mainly it's going to be mitigating if you are managing that risk yourself. Well done. What about fighting between teams? What do you do with fighting?
We should mitigate it.
Yeah, we mitigate it. We might train the referees and how do they actually diffuse, you know, potential risk, or we might be able to then transfer it. Also, we might go and put a security guard as an example. Pivotal error committed by a referee that determines the outcome of a game. What would we do there?
Retaining risk.
Retain the risk? Yeah, it could be the case. It could be that, you know, if it's, let's say, a low issue, it's not a big problem. We might go and say, look, we're going to go and accept that that's a risk. Anyone else decided otherwise? Any other group? What's the other group decided?
Transferring risk?
Transfer?
Yes.
Okay, how did you transfer it?
Like if the coach is hired from some football, like football club, or there is organization, then they could take care of this matter. If whether the coach is where the referee is does not commit any error.
Fair enough, that would work. But also you could mitigate that risk. You could say, you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and train all of this, you know, referees. I want them to go and make sure that they know what's happening. I want you to go and actually make sure they are seasoned. They know the knowledge about various things, and we'll deal with that accordingly. So burst of ways would work. Abusive behavior along the sidelines by parents. What would I do about that?
We will be mitigating it as well by
how do you do that?
By training or telling them what to do, what not to do in the field.
Okay, we might go and try and mitigate it by telling them that they accepted the behavior. Is there any other way for us to deal with it?
Retaining risk?
Yeah, you could retain risk, and you could even transfer it. You might say, you know, I'm going to assign a responsibility to the coaches to manage, or I'm going to assign it to a security company to be able to go and deal with that issue. Inadequate parking, what do I do? There's not enough parking. What do I do?
In this case, like we can do transferring, because we will know that if there is a big events, there will be inadequate parking. So in this case, we can arrange some people to arrange that area for more parkings or traffic control, something.
Potentially you can do that, but you can also mitigate it.
Mitigate it as well, yeah.
How do you mitigate it?
We can, the person who is working, we know that there will be something like that. So the area near the tournament, we can talk with them or something.
Yeah,
We'll be selling the exact amount of tickets.
Could be that, and we could also go and try to schedule games to be at different times instead of all being at the same time. You know, like I schedule one at 11, one at 12, one at 1, whatever they are. And not enough teams. What do I do? How do I fix that risk? Not enough teams. I can mitigate it. I can create a lot of marketing campaigns so that more people will know about it. And I'll be able to get more people to be enrolled. And finally, if there's a serious injury, well, injury is going to be occurring, whether I do something about it or not. Sometimes those injuries will occur and I can't actually do anything to go and control it. That's something for us to be able to go and really try to bear in mind and try to manage that. So let's go and think about that, guys, and try to manage it accordingly. Well done, guys. Thank you very much for your engagement in that activity. Contingency planning, it's an alternative plan that will be used if a possible foreseen risk event actually occurs. So I take an action. If that risk does occur, I need to have a plan. How am I going to be deal with that risk that I already know about? It's a plan of action that will reduce or mitigate the negative impact or a consequence of a risk event, and will basically try to go and manage that accordingly. The risk of not having a contingency plan, the risk of not having a plan to go and deal with a problem when it occurs, is it will actually go and slow your managerial response. There might be an issue that goes and occur. It's going to go and slow that response when an issue and a problem does actually go and occur. Any decisions that are made under pressure because we don't have a plan, we haven't thought about it. If I'm going to go and make a decision very quickly and under pressure, it is dangerous. It could be costly because I'm trying to make a decision very quickly. And a lot of times I select the first decision rather than actually select the appropriate and suitable decision for me at any particular point of time. This is an example of a risk matrix you might think about. If I talk about system freezing, okay, what do? I mitigate it. How do I mitigate the risk so that it won't occur? Well, what I do is I test it. I make some testing to be able to go and really solve that particular problem. What's a contingency plan? What can I do if the problem does occur? If the system stops working, what do I do? Well, I reinstall my whole operating system because although I mitigated it, although I tried to go and prevent the risk from occurring, it still did occur. So what do? My contingency plan is if it occurs, I'm going to go and reinstall my operating system. What's a triggering point? Well, if it's still frozen after 1 hour, I know there's an issue, and I'm going to go and implement my contingency to be able to go and reinstall my operating system. Who is responsible? Emilio is responsible for that particular problem. So you need to know what is the risk, how are you going to respond to that risk to mitigate it, for example. What's a contingency plan if the risk still becomes a reality, even though you might have mitigated it? And what's a trigger for you to implement your contingency planning, and who is responsible at any point of time for that particular risk to be able to go and get managed. Does that make sense, my friends? Any questions at all?
Oh, good.
Thank you very much, Giovanna. All right, guys, I will talk a bit more about the risk very shortly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a break now, because we're going to start the exam at 4:40. You're not going to have much time. We're not going to have a break then. So I'm going to put the break now so that you guys will have 10 minutes now, rest up, and then we'll continue with the remaining information of the lecture. So enjoy your break, 10 minutes, and then we'll continue in a minute. Thank you very much, guys. I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, in terms of the risk and the contingency plan, there are so many various risks and so many various contingency plans we are able to go and deal with. Technical risk, what can I do? I can go and create all of these backup strategies. If, for example, a chosen strategy does go and does fail, I can assess whether a technical uncertainty can be possibly resolved at any point of time. Schedule risks, we use of, for example, Slack, which increases the risk of a late project finish. We basically look at, put imposed duration dates and absolute time by which the project must finish. We can compress of the project schedule, due to the shortened project duration date, and all of these actions to be able to go and try to manage all of those risks. Cost risks, funding risks, again, we can take a lot of actions. What do I do for funding? Changes in the supply of funds for the project can dramatically affect the likelihood of implementation or successful completion of the project. So we need to go and have some contingency planning. What do we do if we're going to having a funding issue? Deal with that. Cost risks, time, cost dependency. If it's going to take longer, I'm going to go and have more problems. So I need to go and manage that. Deciding, to use a schedule to solve the cash flow, for example. You might say, I want to go and, reduce my schedule, get things done quicker. Price protection risk. So if the price increases, you're not going to go and be impacted by that issue. So all of these things for us to go and bear in mind. Sometimes it's not a risk, sometimes it is an opportunity. So for example, there was a project in San Francisco, and they came to the contractor, said, if you finish this bridge quicker for me, we're going to be able to go and give you much more money. And the guy wanted to go and finish it quicker because obviously, you know, they want tens of millions of dollars in terms of bonuses. And the reason why the government gave that much money at that time is because they wanted to go and give people the opportunity to resume back to their normal life, because that bridge in Los Angeles was a key bridge that was basically stopping the whole life in that area. So sometimes there are opportunities you want to go and, you know, deal with them when they go and occur. I want to exploit that risk. I want to seek to eliminate the uncertainty associated with an opportunity to ensure it definitely happens. How did they go and get the bridge completed quickly? They started working 3 shifts. They get so many people to be able to work on the project. They exploited that opportunity. I could share that opportunity. I can allocate some or all of the ownership of an opportunity to another party who is best able to capture the opportunity for the benefit of the project. For example, to get the job done, I need to get more people who work in a drilling field, and I can go to that company and I can say, I'm going to give you that particular risk to go and work with me. I want to get your employees to go and help me to go and get that particular task to go and really be completed. Enhance. What is enhance? Taking actions to increase the probability and or the positive impact of an opportunity. So how can I increase the probability of something happening or the positive impact? We basically try to, you know, do actions accordingly, accepting, you know, being willing to take the advantage of an opportunity if it occurs, but I'm not going to take any action. So it's basically, you know, if it happens, that's great. If it doesn't happen, well, I'm not too worried about it, whether it happens or if it does not actually goes and happens. Throughout our project, a lot of time we talk about money, we talk about contingency money, any extra money that we have. And a lot of time we have what we call budget reserves and management reserves. Budget reserves are the link to the identified risks of a specific work package. So I go and say, all right, I already plan this risk. I know that there is a risk associated with that particular task. And I know I said, if that risk was to become a reality, we're going to go and we're going to have to go and, you know, deal with it accordingly at that time. That's a budget reserve. Management reserve is large funds to be used to cover unforeseen risk. You know how I said earlier, something I might not have anticipated. Well, I need to have a fund to be able to manage something that I have not actually anticipated. Large funds to be used to cover major unforeseen risk, you know, change in project scope, you know, coronavirus, earthquake, whatever it is. We basically haven't anticipated those issues that they're going to go and occur, and we have to go and find a way for us to be able to go and really manage them. Time buffers is also, you know, something we need to go and bear in mind, because what happened, guys, you know, sometimes, you know, same as when the risk might go and become a reality, if that risk does become a reality, things will start taking more time for them to be able to go and really be completed. So what do we do with them? Well, we need to go and have some, you know, time available, amount of time used to compensate for an unplanned delays in the project schedule. How do we go and manage something like that particular issue? You know, how do we do things, you know, severe risks, you know, merge non-critical activities, we go and kind of work on them. Scarce resource activities, we'll try to make sure we're going to go and add some extra time for it. Merge activities that might be merging and could have more than one potential to be delayed because there's 2 activities, you know, that are before it. I might have more time for that merge activity. So this is where I try to be targeted in terms of where I'm going to go and be providing extra time. Now you can see that this is your baseline budget, but you can see that we add an extra reserve, and that's really the, you know, the money reserve we spoke about here, the 50,000. This is for things we did not anticipate they're going to be occurring. We basically have something that is really available for us to deal with that particular risk if it goes and it actually does become a reality. Now I'm going to go through those activities because time is actually very tight. I only have 14 minutes to really get to where I would like to go and get to before your exam starts. Happy to spend time after the class is no problem, and helping you after 6 o'clock, that's not an issue at all. But I want you to go and think about this other activity during your own time. F Entertainment is planning a project which allows people to watch movies in Sydney's Botanic Garden. We want to identify and assess major and minor risks that are inherent in that project. We're going to decide on a response type, mitigate, share, whatever we're going to do. We're going to develop a contingency plan for 2 to 4 identified risks. We're going to estimate the cost, assign a contingency reserve, and ask how much reserve would your team estimate for the whole project. The reason why an activity like this will help you is because it's basically related to the risk that you guys will need to go and be doing yourself. Like, you need to go and you need to make sure you are going to be creating a risk register for your assignment, and you need to be working on your group assignment already. If you haven't started, guys, it's really, really late, and you really need to start, because by next week, I'm going to start talking about agile project management, and we're going to have to start working on activities relating specifically to agile project management. So you guys need to be doing all of these activities that are related to non-agile project management that I've been teaching you between weeks 1 and week 6. So please make sure, if you haven't started, you started, and an activity like this will help you into really looking at creating a risk register. That is really an important part of your group assignment. Risk response control, it's about executing the risk response strategy. I've already created the strategy to go and deal with risk. I know what I need to go and do to be able to manage the problem. I need to have some sort of strategy to be able to go and deal with it. Monitoring any particular triggering event, such as, the system stopped working, that's my triggering event. Initiating particular contingency plans to be able to go and manage a particular risk. And all the time, you need to bear in mind that new risk might occur at any point of time, and it is our job and our duty to be able to go and manage those risks as soon as they occur, to be able to go and continue tracking to deliver things within time, costs, and specifications. A change management process is one that is very important in the organization. Whenever any change is going to go and happen, there's always plans of monitoring the impact of that change, the cost impact, the time impact, the technical impact, the human impact. We have to monitor all of these things that could impact on our project. So we monitor our projects, we track our risks, we basically monitor and track changes and reporting any risk that might be anticipated by making a change within my organization. We need to foster an open organization environment where it's okay to share the risk, and it's okay to have a risk, but it's also about everyone communicating. Everybody knows that there's change happening, and they are aware about how that change might actually go and affect them. We're going to have to continue repeat the identification of risks, the assessment of risks, until we basically go and deal with them. It's about assigning and documenting responsibility for really managing any particular risks. That's an example of a risk register you might be able to create for your assignment. You can see, risk ID, when was it reported, who reported it, description of that risk, what's the trigger date, what's the likelihood of it occurring, what's the impact, low, medium, or high, what's our mitigation plan, who's the owner of that risk. You might also say what's the status. You might even add what's a contingency plan if a risk does occur. Any other comments? What's the next review date? A particular risk went and actually was closed. A format like this is something that might be useful to be able to go and use for your assignment. Now we're going to talk about scope creep. Scope creep is a very big problem in project, and it's basically when we said we're going to deliver a particular requirement and people came and requested more and more and more. And scope creep is about all of these changes. It's a key problem in project management that must be managed by having key change management process. We cannot do just whatever people want at any point of time. We need to make sure we're going to go and we're going to make sure that we're going to have a process in place to be able to go and evaluate any change and make sure whether we're going to go and accept it or not accept it. There is a process that we need to follow. You know, people might come and tell us we need a change. They're going to have an idea. They come and submit a change request. We're going to go and review that change request, and which either we approve it or we disapprove it. If we don't approve it, we go and submit a new change request. If we approve it, we update our plan of record, and we basically go and distribute some communication to people so that they know that change is happening. They know when it's going to happen. They know the potential impact of that change, and they'll try to create the management of that change accordingly. This is an example of a change management process that some people might go and follow. It's basically like a form. It could be an online form. It could be a paper form. A lot of time it is an online form because you can track it and you'll have a clear number for that change. But it have things like, you know, what's the description of the requested change? Why do we change? What's the areas impacted? You know, disposition, do we approve it? Do we disapprove it? What's the priority? What's the funding? Who's going to need to go and sign on that change for us to be able to ensure it's going to go and really be implemented. Now, change could happen from so many various places. Project scope changes, someone coming saying we want more things. That could be part of that change. Implementation of contingency plan that might have been imposed on us. We'll say, all right, we're going to have to go and implement that contingency plan because the system stopped working, because you know, there's the software is not operating as expected. We're going to have to implement contingency plan, and that means we have to make changes accordingly. Sometimes changes are the result of improvements that we are able to go and do, that we try to go and really incorporate at any particular point of time. Whenever there's a change, there's you know, we need to track them, all of these changes. We need to know description, reference number, date received, date submitted, the amount of money that we need to go and have potentially for that change, what's the status of that change, and what any other comments that might be appropriate. But we need to track every change within the organization, because if we don't track it, that change might go and be implemented and no one really have any idea about it. And it happened many times where we try to release something and the website stopped working, people calling saying, why is the website not working? Because we might not have communicated that change appropriately to the people, so they had no idea that that change was going to go and be implemented. A very good change control process help us to go and manage any inconsequential changes. So everything have to be in a sequence for us to be able to go and do it. We can maintain the cost of the changes. We can adjust the work break and structure accordingly. Because when there's change, the task we need to do in a work break and structure will change. And at the same time, the budget that we need is going to go and change. We can have a clear responsibility for the implementation of that change. There's someone in charge. Effect of changes are visible to all the parties, because we're going to speak to all of those people and explain it to them. Implementation of change is actually being monitored by various people, and the scope of change will be quickly reflected in a baseline and in any performance measurements that we're going to be doing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is another activity that we won't have much time to be able to go and do. It is about a Transland project. It's about an IT project. Again, it's about identifying all of these risks that might go and occur for that particular project, and trying to go and find a way for us to be able to go and measure it. I'll be loading the answers for you guys this week, but I would like you to go and try to have a go at them before I even go and load any of those responses. Do you guys have any questions? Okay.
Oh, good.
No worries, guys. Please review the lecture slides, tutorial materials, and the notes you've taken, and please read chapter 7. I want to remind you that we care so much about you. We care about your success, and we want to make sure you guys are going to be doing well. So thank you kindly for all your hard work, all your time. Please continue working hard. Next week, about the agile side of project management. And that's going to be very, very important for your group assignment. And I'm going to go and make sure there are activities that we're going to be doing in the classroom to help you start and getting ahead in terms of that assignment. So please make sure you are coming, you are engaging, you are working with your group, because I'm going to put you with that group to be able to start working on those activities. Thank you very much. And, I look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you very much for all your hard work.